Good God afternoon, people of God. You have tuned into another episode of Solutions. I am your host, Minister Corey Wright. And as always, we know what the problems are. We know what we need to do to solve them. What I offer on this platform is solutions, dedicated acts of action that bring about true change, not just talked about change. And no excuses. Excuses are man's tools of incompetence that build bridges to nowhere, monuments of nothing. Coming live from IntellectualRadio.com, our heart radio station. And I am excited today, people. I have a great week planned. Today, we will be talking about interracial marriages and relationships and the drawbacks and the benefits. Then tomorrow, we will be talking about relocation. You know, what makes people relocate? Why do they relocate? What makes people go to a whole nother city and state and start again? We will have successful stories of those who have been successful relocating. And Friday, I have Minister Seth Martin, a very anointed young man of God. He's ministry director over at Victory Cathedral under Pastor Smokey Northfield. He will be here Friday. When I tell you, he is going to bring down the house. Mr. Renee Pard has tuned in. Awesome man of God. He'll be here next week. Mr. Evangelist Renee, I did get your information. So definitely I'm going to put the show information out. Thank you for supporting the solutions. Okay, today we are talking about interracial relationships. We're talking about the pros and the cons. Then I'm asking a question. Do other races understand us better than our own race do? Or do other races treat us better than our own race? And that's a great question about that. Then I'm also asking the question, does race have a color? Or does happiness have a color? Better yet, does the happiness have a color? You know, are we victims of our own prejudice, or are we victim of our own thinking, or is it just a lack of not knowing? In this show, we're going to explore that. We're going to explore interracial relationships, interracial marriages, some of the benefits, some of the things that might hurt. We're going to talk about that, and feel free, if you are in a interracial relationship, are you in a relationship, please call 708-223-8953. Again, 708-223-8953. We would love to hear your opinions. And what do you think about that? So let's start with me. My birthday was just June the 16th. I thank God for allowing me to see 44 years. I thank him. And then Father's Day, I thank him for keeping me. I have never dated outside my race. I have never dated, not that I wouldn't, but I have never dated outside. I have never dated outside my race. But this is something that I have to admit, in 44 years, I have never had a successful relationship with a Black woman. Never. Not saying I can't. Not saying that I won't one day, not saying that I pray I don't, but I have not yet had a successful relationship in 44 years with a woman of my same race. So I am open, and not that I'm prejudiced or I'll ever prejudice, but it's the fear of the unknown. You don't know what to expect. So I have never had a successful relationship. Now, I'm not going to say or go by the conclusion. Maybe if I'd have had a relationship outside of my race, I would be successful. That might not be true. There was a lot of things I know I need to change about myself that I have been changing. I thank God for changing. But the question that arises is that for me, is there is a difference. I'm sure there's a difference culturally, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the things, like one thing that interracial marriages or interracial relationships deal with is society. They deal with the thinking of society. Society feels that, okay, that races should remain with each other. Those are a lot of racist people. So unfortunately, you have to deal with what society thinks, and a lot of times people don't want to deal with what society thinks because, see, statistics shows that my man James McCullen, listen, wow, James, man, I ain't seen James in years. We worked at the parking garage. What's up, bro? So we deal with interracial relationships. You have to deal with the prejudice of the society. You have to deal with people thinking, people saying negative things, and you got to deal with the stigmatas, or he's a sellout, or he's with this person outside his race because he's not strong enough. Say he's a black man, he's not strong enough to deal with a black woman. So what he do is go to a race because maybe they're more easier to deal with, or they're easier to bow down. And that's what some of the ladies think. Some of our sisters think that. Or you might deal with a man that say, okay, I want a white man, I want a sister, or you got an Asian, I want an Asian, or various races, various things. People always give these stigmatas and this racist thinking to the reason why people are into interracial relationships, instead of just saying that maybe they're just happy. See, God made all people, so color don't matter. Unfortunately, in some senses in life, color does matter, especially with where you at in life, far as your position. But it shouldn't matter because God created all of us the same way. We still bleed the same way. So happiness has no color. I don't care what the person is. A person can be whatever race they are. Happiness, if they make you happy, that's all count. Never worry about what the person's race is. But there are some things that you have to deal with. You have to deal with family. Family might say, okay, they might look a different way, or say, okay, especially, and being a black man, I can imagine if my mate, who might be white or a different other race, might bring me home to meet their parents. I know that I'm a fun person. I love to talk, but there will be a little discomfort, or a little, okay, I wonder how they're going to accept me, or what they're going to think. Not because I'm scared, but maybe there's some cultural differences, or there may be some things that we might think about. So that is something that you think about. Makes me think about the movie, the Spike Lee movie, with I forgot the name of it. Wesley Snipes in there, when he was Jungle Fever. He's called it Jungle Fever. But if you are happy and the person makes you happy, there's nothing jungle about that. What's jungle about that is to stay with somebody that hurts you. Because I have been through some of the worst points and the worst periods in relationships with my own race. So when I look at it like that, nobody can do no more worse than my race than done to me already. Being in a relationship, and I hate to say it that way, and I'm not, shooting shots or anything. I'm just saying I can only speak from my own experience. Like my pastor always say, I can only speak from my own experience. But again, I have not yet to have a successful relationship. Will I like to have a successful relationship? Now, it's nothing wrong with wanting to date your own kind. Let me just get that out the way right now and say that. It's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is that it's nothing wrong with dating somebody of another race. You want to be happy. And you know what? I'm at a point right now in my life, I just want to be happy. I don't care what race she is. I don't care what, I care about what she looks like inside, because one day we all gonna get old and we're not gonna look like we did when we 20. I just happen to age good. I look good, anyway, and I still look good in my 40s like I did in my 20s. But them genetics, them genes don't mean everybody gonna do that. So you have to deal with the thoughts of your family. You also have to deal with friends. Because a lot of times your friends going to be looking down or looking at you, especially if you are in a society where this is not accepted. Now you got to look at the backlash that I'm going to get for having a person of another race. Or just like I come into I come into my family, and they're looking like, okay, what are you doing with this woman? Why a sister ain't good enough for you? Now they would never do that. My mom really doesn't. My mom is one of the most wonderful, beautiful women in the world. She just wants me to be happy. So if I came in there with somebody of another race, she wouldn't mind. She would look at me as long as you happy. But there are friends that will be whispering, or sometimes there are friends that's curious. A lot of times they're curious about other races. I mean, there are some stereotypical things that they've said about black men. Is it true? Especially if you were another race, are they true? Because unfortunately, you got to get away from them stereotypes. But unfortunately, there is stereotypes. So there are a lot of things that when you really look at people and their thinking, can you get away from that? Another thing is the hidden prejudice that might come out in arguments. See, a lot of times we don't think about that, because if we don't get what we're thinking out on the table up front, they will come out in arguments. And I've seen that happen. Because the minute you don't agree with that other person, the first thing that you're going to do is say, you know what, if you were this race or you were like me, then maybe you wouldn't think that way. Or in our race, we do things this way. And then your response was, I'm not a part of that race, but in our race, we always do this. And it always comes out in arguments, because people want to say what they think, but there are things that's handed down by narrow-minded people they have come across in their life that pass it down from generation to generation. Nobody is born a racist. Nobody is born with these stereotypical thinking. They are passed down by somebody idiot thoughts, somebody ideologies, and some of these people's hate or dislike for other races. So they pass that nonsense down to their kids. They pass it down, and then they want it. So a lot of times, because I have been around people in school, I've been in people's jobs. I went to Job Corps when I left high school. I went to Job Corps, and I talked to a girl. Her name was Mandy, and Mandy, I was the first black man she ever been around. So she already thinking, that we're crazy, or we're gang bangers, or we're not intelligent. And we were in the same program, the same school program, where we were both learning. But she had never been around black folks. She didn't know what to think. She didn't know how to act. She didn't know what to say. She didn't want to say stuff. And then it was funny. I said, well, listen, ask me a question that you want to ask me, being a black man. And she said, and I'm gonna ask the question that she asked, and I want you guys to really think about this when I say this. She said, how come black folks, especially black men, get so mad when my race call you the N-word, and you constantly call yourselves the N-word all the time? I said, wow. And this was in Job Corps almost 20 years ago. She said, now she said the way my race says it is derogatory, but the way your race says it is derogatory too. How can you get mad at somebody? And this was years ago at Job Corps. This white girl, never been around black men. She asked me a question, and I opened myself for that, because of, I guess she liked me, and at that time maybe I was considering an interracial relationship at that time. But she said, why do black men get upset when my race call you guys the N-word, when you keep on calling yourself the N-word all the time? All you did was take the ER off the ER off the word and put an A. So you changed the ER from the A. And I told her, I say, I agree 100%. Because I am not going to call my brothers, and I ain't going to call another black man an N-word. And I think if you're going to get mad at somebody for calling you something you call yourself, then you should stop calling yourself that. So I told her that word was inappropriate for us to call ourselves that, and that word was inappropriate for them to call us that. But I go back to a lot of my thinking, because she said something, asked me another question. and just because she didn't know, and this was put in her head by her family. But she said, why do we get mad when pops shoot us down and we're killing ourselves? So when we look at these interracial thoughts and we look at these interracial relationships and we look at these cultural differences, there are already preconceived notions in people's mind. So when they come around black folks, or they come around other folks, or they come around Indians, because you know what? Unfortunately, when you know, a lot of people when they're on a plane, and they might not admit it, when they're on a plane, they see Islamic person, or they see a person, a Indian person. The first thing they think when they get on a plane, they might be a terrorist. Unfortunately, that's again, those are these stereotypical things. That's why being in a relationship, in a interracial relationship, is tough. And it's tough about what society thinks. And again, so when I look at that, you know, you look at those hidden things you have when you get into an argument. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy being an interracial relationship, or even an interracial relationship, or even an interracial marriage. It is not always easy. It can be very difficult. It can be extremely difficult for the kids. Say, for instance, you married and you have kids in an interracial marriage. Now, the question is, who heritage that is dominant in the growth of this child's life? Because just say, for instance, let's take a black and white woman. Let's take a black man and a white woman. Okay, that child, and it should be evenly yoked. Vanessa, you're right. It should be equally yoked. You know, please call in, chime in with your response to 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953. It should be equally yoked. But then you got that child has to face the situation is am I black enough? Or am I white enough? Or am I going to act white in certain circumstances, or am I going to act black in certain circumstances? Or, you know what I mean? Or, you know what? My wife is Catholic, but I'm Baptist. Or I'm a Jehovah's Witness, or I'm something else. You know, what religions they going to be? Or is it going to be that this child is in the middle of a tug of war, a silent tug of war? You know what? Or you know what? This is the way we do it over here. This is the way I do it over here. Or when they go visit the various grandparents, one grandparent is saying, okay, you know what? We eat chitlins and fat back over here with greens, and the other ones over here say we eat cottage cheese and bread, and we don't eat stuff like that. You know, is it going to be? I mean, because you think about that, because let's take heritage. Let's say if you marry an African, you're a white woman marrying an African. Okay, in Africa, it's part of their growth and development that they can have multi-wives. You know, they can have concubines. You know, that's part of them growing up. So how can we tell our kids that on this side or this side, we only have one wife, one husband, but on the other side it's saying, you know what, you can have 15 of them, many as you can take care of, and the first wife gets all the benefits. See, you think about that, man. You look at these places, because in America, it's polygamy, but over in Africa, it is a way of life. It's legal. So that's when you think about, when you look at the thing about being in an interracial relationship, especially having kids, there is so many different cultures that the kid has to know about culturally on both sides. But the question is, and it becomes a big problem, or it becomes a bomb in a relationship, is when they have to decide on what race they're going to do in that. Let me see what Tasha said. In this situation, they must consider these things before marriage and having children. Okay, I agree with that. But what about love? You know, come on, you want to call in, Tasha? It's 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. You know, that is, but you fell in love. You know, you got to remember, the kids came after the love. You know, this person is dreaming. But when kids come into effect, especially the interracial relationship, it changes everything. Because before, it just, and this is just me, I just see like people treated me, especially in a relationship, better before I had kids by them. You know, because you can walk away, but you got kids, you can't walk away. You know, A conversation needs to be seriously taking place before you bring a child into this world. How many people have that conversation, Vanessa? That's a good point. How many people have that conversation? Most people don't. And believe me, when they're laying with somebody, or you in an intimate situation with them, you're not gonna stop and say, "Wait a minute, let's stop making love so I can ask you a question about how we gonna raise our kid when we have it." You ain't thinking about that. See, a lot of times, and I don't mean that, I'm not sounding insensitive, but a lot of situations creep up on people. They're thinking about what can happen, but they're not worrying about what can happen till it actually happens. Now they got to deal with it. But so many times, you think about that. That is such a big thing when it comes to kids. And interracial relationships. What are they gonna do? Just think if a person is Spanish and you're married and you're black, okay? Are you gonna teach them Spanish or black? You're gonna teach them Spanish as well. So again, they got to know about the heritage. So so are they gonna celebrate Black History Month? Are they gonna celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Are they gonna celebrate various different things, religious? What are they gonna do? When is it gonna become a problem? Or can it become a problem? Sometimes it can. Sometimes it may not. But again, that is some of the things you have to look at. But there's also some benefits to interracial relationship. I think it's some great benefits. Like, one of the benefits is you open yourself to learning about a new perspective in various aspects of life. The thing that I look at, especially, and I think is the greatest thing in an interracial relationship, because you learning new cultures. Your mind is open, and a lot of times with your mind being open to somebody new, it's open to another culture. It's open to another race. It allows you to eliminate those stereotypes from that race that you may have. It gives you a whole outlook. It also gives you opportunity, especially if it's a race that sticks together, the race that promotes each other. Then that's a great asset to you. But it teaches you to a whole way of life. It teaches you to a whole culture. It teaches you to a whole way of thinking. It makes you respect that other person's journey as well as yours, because you realize that, what, and most times, 9 times out of 10, you realize you got so much in common anyway. It might be a different struggle, but it's struggle nevertheless. So a lot of times it is also a good opportunity. Now, it's also a good opportunity for your partner. They can teach you about their own racial community, giving you an opportunity to learn the world from a new eyes. And that's what a lot of times the benefit of being in a relationship with somebody of an opposite, I'm not gonna say opposite, but of another race, is because they can teach you about the world from another point of the world. Because, see, so many times we get trapped in what we know we see. That's why a lot of our kids think that's the only thing there is a ghetto, or that they're more confined with an area, a block. You always hear people saying, and it's always burn my noodle. I always say, I'm from over here. I'm from 79th Street. I'm from the Wild Hunters. I'm from the low end. I'm from Chicago. I was born in Chicago. I am not going to limit myself to a few blocks that I don't own just to make myself. But that's why I enjoy, I would love to date somebody outside my race. Show me about where you come from, especially you from Ireland, you from Paris, or you from Japan. Tell me some of the cultures. Tell me some of the things. So it's so many great things that you can get. But one of the greatest benefits of being in an interracial relationship, one of the greatest benefits is you escape from the ideology viewpoints, or from the stereotypical viewpoints. Thing that being in a relationship with somebody of another race, because, see, a lot of times we don't want to admit that we've had hidden thoughts. We've had preconceived notions of other races. We've had, the first thing we do, we go into a Spanish neighborhood. We want to try to talk like them, like, what's up, SA? What's up, Holmes? I mean, come on, they people. Hey, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you, man. Because you somebody, brother. You're my brother. And if you in God, you're my brother in Christ. You're my sister in Christ. It doesn't make a difference what your race is. So, you know, a lot of times we have these things. But, you know, one of my best friends, Carlos, I'm going to tell you something. I went with one of my boys, Carlos. I went to his neighborhood, and I tell you, they treated me like a king there. They didn't treat me like I was a black man. They treated me like I was a brother. I ate all kinds of stuff. And that's when I was into the world at that time. And they went to the store and everything happened. You know, it was like a wonderful place. And that's one of my best friends. I have another one of my best friends. His name is Wayne. Wayne, a white guy, Irish. He was the one, his mom introduced me to brie cheese. I have never heard of brie cheese. She said, Courtney, do you want a burger? And I'm like, yeah, give me a burger. So she gave me a burger with this big old long brick of this white cheese. And, you know, they all eating this cheese. And I bit into this cheese and I looked at her like, what is this? She said, it's aged cheese. I said, give me some newborn cheese because this aged cheese is good. So she gave me some American cheese. Now, there are cultural differences. At that time, I was drinking and I like Mickey's beer. So she said, Corey, do you want a beer? And I'm telling you, I had to be about 22 at the time, you know, and that was over 20 years ago. She said, Corey, you want a beer? I said, yeah, I take one. She brought me a miniature keg and she gave all them miniature kegs. Now, when I was growing up, we were used to 40 ounces or bottles, you know, and I've never had nothing bigger than a 40 ounce unless you old school and you remember Gill's beer, Mr. Gill's beer, where you get the beer in a jug or in a gallon. That's the only time I remember anything bigger. But they gave me a miniature keg and she said, there go your beer, and gave me a glass. I'm like, wait a minute, I know all y'all gonna drink on this too, right? And they was like, no, that's your beer. I ended up taking that home. Now, you know, some circles I would have been like, wow, they give me a whole keg of beer. I'm going over there next week and drink. But, you know, there is cultural difference. But that was he's still one of my best friends. He's still in the service. He did 20 years in the service, and I think he's over in Iraq, still over there. So I've gotten some of my best friends, you know, it's different cultures. So they break the stereotypes. You know, we get into these stereotypical thinking about other races. So being in a relationship with somebody of another race is such an advantage by breaking stereotypes. Because see, what you do by your treatment of somebody in another race, you break their stereotype. You definitely break their stereotype. You know, a lot of times, you know, I remember again, a young lady I met at Job Corps. She thought all black men was gangbangers, drug dealers, walk around with their head turned. And, you know, all the time you walk up throwing up forks and throwing up gang signs and all that other mess. She thought that happened. And so she met an intelligent black man or a black brother that was a good man that talked English. That's why one thing I can say, I might fight with my son moms, but I'd say one thing, they do not allow my kids to speak broken English. My young boy is brilliant. He don't come in, he will shake your hand, he will look you in your eye, he will stand up and talk like a young man should. I don't allow my kids, my oldest son get on my nerves, them skinny jeans, because I don't like them skinny jeans. I don't think men should be wearing jeans that's tight on their behind. I just can't get with it. I'm sorry. But I just think, let me see if there's, you know, I just can't go with them skinny jeans. You know, but, you know, he has a girlfriend of another race. And, you know, they make a great couple, you know, but I won't allow my son to walk around. Allow my sons walk around. Here, we got a caller. Caller, what's your name and say where you calling from?
Dominique Lewis, calling from the south side of Chicago.
Dominique, what's up? I'm glad you called in because you've been in interracial relationships and you have interracial kids. Tell me about that.
Well, my oldest, she's Puerto Rican and black, as well as everything that I'm mixed with.
What you mixed with besides crazy?
I'm mixed with Creole, Indian, white, Polish, all that. Just mixed with it all.
Wow, you like Baskin Robbins, huh?
Yeah, anyone flavor.
So tell me about the benefits of being in an interracial relationship, and tell me about the some of the things that may hurt in a interracial relationship.
Well, there are ups and downs, pretty much the same as it is with the same race. We have it to where most of them, like Hispanics or whatever, more to family oriented, and we have some that's not. It's pretty much the same. I look at it as the same, but I also have dated Caucasians. But it's worse dating Caucasians. I went through so much. I ended up was working with one. Me and him, we ended up being together, and we'll be holding hands, leaving work, and everything like that. And we ended up getting called in a meeting because they were saying, well, it was a white guy holding a black girl's hand. So I feel I feel that is very inappropriate in the workplace, no matter what.
So let
And
me
it
get
was
this
off the
right.
clock.
You were at work holding your white boyfriend's hand,
Yes,
and you got called in a
like
meeting, and they
actually,
said it
we
was
was off the clock.
inappropriate.
We was leaving, going to our vehicle, and didn't think anybody was, pretty much paying attention because we off the clock. We felt like we could do whatever.
So
Getting into the
what happened in
vehicle.
that meeting? What happened? I'm curious. The quiet minds want to know what happened in that meeting.
Actually, they was just talking to us about the different things that we can and cannot do, and us feeling like we're off the clock. It's okay. But they're saying as long as we're still on that work grounds, because I used to take inventory for Home Depot, and they was like, okay, well, no matter if you're off grounds or not, like even if you're past by and you still got your work shirt on, that's still inappropriate. I'm like, wait, what? But then too, I had to look at it. We were out there in Kansas City.
Also, this was in Kansas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they wanted it to be salt and no pepper, but they didn't want no salt and pepper, right?
Right.
Wow. So now let me ask you a question. Your kids, they're one of you say they're half Puerto Rican and half black. How do you guys keep the heritage, or how do you guys deal with far as the heritage with the kids? Do they learn Spanish? Do they know Spanish? How do you guys um, incorporate that in raising the kids?
Well, my oldest daughter, I was married to her dad, and him being more so, he speaks Spanish, but then he don't. He didn't want to teach her. So I would learn from different, Hispanics I have as friends, but I have to make sure they're, Puerto Rican and not Mexican because there's a difference in the two in speaking Spanish. So I have to, learn from them, and I'll pick them up and I teach my oldest. And that's how I ended up working it into her. So she know a little bit of the basics and everything like that. But he would not teach her. He actually wasn't really, in her life like the father should. So.
Okay, let me be devil advocate right quick.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that the black men didn't treat you right, or is it? Let me just outright ask the question: do other races treat black women or even black men better than our race treat each other?
I can say so, yes.
Wow, that's kind of rough, ain't it?
It is, but at the same time, a lot of other races, they feel like, okay, well,
I mean, do the other races feel okay? Okay,
yeah,
now
they feel like we deserve more respect than anything. So of course they're gonna give it to us because the fact that they feel bad of what their culture did to us. You feel me?
also it ain't that slave. Let me be with a slave mentality, is it?
No.
Yeah, because I mean, you think about that because a lot of people feel that way because obviously you had to be hurt by a black. Okay, okay, for my audience, let's just get it out. Would you rather date a black man or a man outside your race?
That's kind of hard because I didn't go to the other race, because a black man that did me wrong. It was just I was just into everybody, it didn't matter.
I like that. You into everybody. Okay. So
yes.
So love don't have a color.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Okay. All
I
right.
don't
Now,
want to blame the black man, for his attitude and don't think that he is, gangster all the time and nothing like
what
that.
about these? What about these black women with these attitudes? Don't blame it all on the black men. Yeah, there's some women. I know them. Listen, there's some women with some attitudes.
I won't hold that over their heads. Is what I'm saying. So, not all of them are the same. We have some nice, gentle, black men or whatever.
Thank you.
Much love to them.
Thank you.
But then again, attitude
Tasha said a black man. That's right. Now, now let me ask this question. I know I'm probably going to get in trouble ask this question. Is some of the stereotypes true, being that you've dated different races?
No. Us women, we do have a lot of attitude, but that's us as women.
Also, it's not just black women with attitude. All women got attitude.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I ran into some Hispanics, straight cutters. I feel, they can have, more attitude than us. But then, it goes around like different ones. Because I feel it's what they've been through in their life to where they have the attitude that they have.
Okay. You know what? I can appreciate, because you know why? You've been there and you do have kids. And, you do have kids that is biracial. And, amazing girls. And you're doing an amazing job. And you guys are working to do that. So I really appreciate your call, Miss Dominique. Amazing view, amazing insight. And you're right. Love does not have a color. Whoever makes you happy. So is there anything else you want to say, or you want to send a shout out to somebody, or do you want to tell the world about your kids?
Well, I want to shout out to my girls, Ayana and Kalea, ages 3 and 7. My mom.
Ayana and Kalea. That don't sound like no Puerto Rican name. That sounds like a black name.
No, it don't. I have to think
Ayana and Kalea sound like a black name.
Ayana
Kalea. I ain't seen no Puerto Rican lady's name Ayana or
no.
What?
Kalea is the Puerto Rican.
Oh, my bad.
Ayana is the black.
Okay.
As well as whatever I'm mixed with. And I didn't go by, their race or anything with the names. I just thought of a name that, would get them a job. So
yeah, because I know
Elbow, Nene, and nothing.
Right, Shaquita, Shanae, no.
Right.
Well, I'm really y'all don't know I'm really Chinese. I just got a bad tan.
I believe it.
You don't start none, won't be none on the radio. No, again, I thank you for your call. You know what? That's good, because you've actually done it, and I think that's amazing. And now, for the future, would you date again outside of black men, or what is your relationship status now? Are you in love with a black man or some other race? What?
Actually, I am in love with a black man right now. But in the future, not speaking down on that relationship, or however it might flow out later on in the past, or how it was, how it is before.
Harold, what's up?
I wouldn't mind at all.
Okay, that's good. I appreciate you.
I'm open to decisions. It depends on the personality, not the person.
You know what? That's powerful. It depends on the personality, not the person, not the race. It depends on who they are inside and what they do and what's up. So all right. Thank you so much for your call, Dominique. Love you for you.
You're welcome. Love you too.
Bye. Okay, Miss Dominique. Hey, my man Harold. Man, I'm glad you tuned in, man. Thank you. So there you go. She's dated outside of race. She has kids that is biracial, Puerto Rican and black. She has one name, a black name, one name, Puerto Rican name, and it's amazing that she works together with the father, and she makes sure that they know both heritage and both cultures. And I think that's very, very Very, very powerful, because especially when you deal with some of the obstacles, like, some of the obstacles, because a lot of times most people think interracial relationships, interracial marriages are not traditional unions. That a lot of people, I was reading that this morning, blew me away, because if you look at the number, and let me get the statistics, it says in America, 1 out of every 12 marriages in the United States is interracial. So that it's on a constant rise every single year, and the good thing about that is happening is that people are starting to see what's inside the book and study the outside of the book. What that shows is that this racial divide line is starting to be erased away, and a lot of times, so many people have that hidden racial line that they're too scared to cross over the color barrier. They're more worried about not being happy, or they worry about what people thinking, and study being happy. So a lot of times most people don't think that that's a big obstacle when you look at being in a interracial relationship. Another one is living with constant assumptions. Everybody, being hearing people loudly express their dissent, their uh uh negative thoughts about you being in an interracial relationship. You got all those things that they say, that again, a black man, you got to go get a white woman because she's so more submissive to you, or you're not man enough to deal with the women in your race, or you know what, or hold on, let me the Solutions Radio Show. You're talking to Corey.
Hey, Corey, this is Candace.
Hey, Candace, where you calling from?
I'm calling from Arkansas.
Arkansas. Wow. I'm anxious to hear what you got to say. What do you think about interracial relationships, and have you ever dated anyone outside your race, and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I have dated outside of my race, but I didn't look at it so much as dating outside of my race as if that person happened to be from another race. I was really more interested and attracted to the person that I found out so much because they were white or Asian or whatever. So, I mean, for me, it's not about the color. We all see color. People act like they don't see color. I don't really believe you, because it's, it is a characteristic. It's an obvious characteristic, but we don't fall in love with someone because of what we always see on the outside.
So let's deal with that point. You say people do see color, so
Yeah,
they're not truthful, honest about themselves in seeing color.
How do you not see color? I mean, it's just what it is. Now, you may not necessarily choose someone based on that, or you may choose someone based on that. I know people who will say, "No, I only date white men because," and that's the first thing that they're dating white men for, is because of their color. I know other people are like, "No, I'm dating this person who happens to be whatever the other race is." But to say that I don't see color, I don't necessarily believe that, because it's an obvious thing. If I walk into a room, I'm a black woman.
A fine black woman too.
that's just obvious. So
so let me say something. I gotta be devil advocate because I'm on the air. Do you think that some black women think that there's a greater economic advantage in dating white men?
Probably, yeah. Probably there probably are some women, black, white, and otherwise, who think that there's an economical advantage to dating a white man. Whether or not that's true has nothing to do with their color. It has more to do with power and privilege and their economic status, but not necessarily because of the color of their skin. I know lots of wealthy African American men, and I know lots of wealthy white men, and they're with people, and they are either in a relationship or they are married to a person who saw that as a as a part of the lure, the fact that they were wealthy or did have money. So it didn't matter if they were black or not, it was about the money.
Now let me ask you a question. Do a lot of men, when they get to a certain status of professionalism, athletes, or wealth, that they feel that they need a white woman on their arm?
I think it's more about who's in their circle.
Good. Wow.
Who's in their circle, and their level of consciousness around who's in their circle and who's in their inner circle. So I don't know if it's so much black or white. We do see, I think there's probably a higher percentage of athletes that we see with women outside their race, but I think those women are in their circle.
Let me ask you a question. You're a doctor, you're a professor, you're a very successful author, businesswoman, very attractive lady. So you are very diverse in both worlds. What if somebody say, do other races treat you better than your own race do, or do they accept you better in your own race?
In terms of dating and relationships, no. It's the person. It is the person that is coming to you. It is not about their race necessarily. When I dated a man who was not African American, he was Latino. He didn't treat me any better than African American guy that I've dated. So it had nothing to. It was the person. It was who they are. It was their personality, their upbringing, what they saw in me outside of what they thought I might be able to bring to the table. So that doesn't really matter so much. One thing I will say that in our culture, in Black culture, one of the major issues, at least from my perspective, is it's almost like a miscarriage of love. Like love has not really been a part of who we are and embedded in us. In many ways, it has been stripped out because of histories and centuries of slavery and all that stuff. That being said, there have been times within our own history and our own culture where we tried to kind of bring that back, like the Black Renaissance. It was all about love as equal, or love as relation to prosperity. Or even in the 60s, it was about, Black empowerment, and there was definitely love attached to that. But there really has, in many ways, been a miscarriage of love. Like, we don't really know love. We don't know how to define it for ourselves. We don't know how to equate it to one another. We don't really know how to relate it one to another, or interact in a way that is loving, or have intimacy that's not attached to sex. Because a lot of the sex that happened, centuries ago, was sex related to brutality. And so we just have so many different mixed up definitions of what it is and what it needs and what it should look like and how it should feel for us.
Wow, that's very insightful. Another finger tight. So let me ask you a question. Are you in love? And if you are in love, are you in love with a Black man, or are you in love with a man of another race?
I am absolutely and totally in love.
Okay.
With lots of things.
Don't start that now. We're on radio now. You gotta let our quiet minds. I'm in my Oprah moment. Are you in love? The audience wants to know, are you in love?
I'm sure the audience is not that concerned about my love life, but I will say, yes, I'm in love, and love is it is something that it grows. It is something that matures, and so.
Okay, I know that, but are you in love with a brother or somebody else?
I'm in love with a man. How about
that? All right. Is it anybody you want to send your shots out to, and you want to give us another perspective? The air is yours.
No, that's all I have to say on that topic.
So you ain't gonna tell us if you're in love with a Black man or not?
I'm in love with a man. I don't think it should matter if he's black, white, green, purple.
She tough, y'all. She tough, baby. I'm in love with. But you are in love.
Of course.
Look at her. Of course, I'm in love. I'm in love. All right, now it better not be no man walking around with no overalls on and a straw in his mouth singing old Negro the hymns. We shall.
Well.
All right, as long as he can cook, right? Well, Dr. Candace, I thank you so much for calling in. You have amazing insight, and again, I'm praying for your union with your. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say with your Black man, your Afro-American, and I pray you guys have an amazing union.
All right, I appreciate you.
All right, definitely call in tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about relocation, and you know about relocation because you're from Chicago. So call in tomorrow.
All right.
All right. Love you. Wow. Now there you go, people. That was an amazing, 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 amazing perception because love does not have a color. So you have a right to love who you want. And again, like she said, you think about some of the things you grew up with, and she said you have to be honest. See, so many people are not honest about color. And it doesn't mean you can't be in love, but sometimes you got to be open, because see, the worst thing you want to do is to get into a place with somebody of another race, and you got these bent up or hidden thoughts in your mind, or stereotypes or assumptions that you don't ask. Because see, how would you ever know what a person is outside of their appearance if you never get to know the inside of them? Because she's absolutely right. It doesn't matter what the person is. The person's a man, the person's a woman, and that's all count. So you got to look at that, and especially in a relationship. Because if you don't deal with those things, you know what I mean? When you don't deal with those things, you'll start blaming each other in the relationships, and you'll start blaming them on cultural differences and beliefs. You'll hear one at a time, if we were over here, we wouldn't be doing this. Or if I was, I know a lot of times people might say, okay, we need to, like, say, for instance, you married to a woman, an Asian woman who's a businesswoman, and say, we need to put up for a rainy day, or we need to take everything in a business step like this or investment. But you might be one of the people that came up in a neighborhood, or you came up in a setting, or came up in a family where you guys had to struggle, and it was like, I can't live for tomorrow, I gotta live for the day, I gotta eat today. A lot of times my mom used to say that. I love my mom to death, but when I grew up, I'd be like, Mom, I want to do this, so can I do that? My mom's like, I can't worry about that, I gotta worry about feeding y'all today. So you can hear that. So a lot of times, if you don't look at or deal with some of those cultural differences and be upfront with them, they will come out at the worst time, and then they become the blame, and then they'll be the reason why you have behind that not growing in a relationship. Because it's easy to find something that you can have behind and be right. I told somebody this morning, yourself will always make you right. That's the one person you ain't never got to argue about being right or wrong with, is yourself, because yourself gonna always make you right. So another test. So a lot of times most people can see, because it's easier to look at a person and say, okay, they're not the same race, therefore they don't understand my culture or what I believe in, so make no sense to talk. And then what happens? Things get rough. There are some cultures where women walk behind their men. There are some cultures where women didn't speak until they were spoken to. Now that's barbaric, and that's archaic, and that's old. But there are some places where they didn't do that. There are some places where you look at where they would do whatever they want to do to women, and then they would hurt them if they said. Some of them are Saudi Arabia, some of them foreign countries, what they do to women, and women don't have rights and things of that nature. So when you look at that, when you come over here, they have that same thinking. There are a lot of men, and it blew me away when I looked up this, that go over to those foreign countries, go to like the Philippines, and go to them places and get them women over there and come over here and marry them, and they become their servants, or they have 2 or 3 different wives. Look, just ask Willie Allen. Let's go. But it's the truth. People do it because they have different cultures. Because I think one of the greatest cultural differences is that in America, we have a lot of advantages that other people in other cities and other places don't. Some of the stuff we take for granted, they will love to have an inkling of that in Africa. In some of the places in Jamaica, I was watching the thing. It was American Gangsters, Most Evil. And they was talking about this guy that got arrested in Jamaica. He was one of the biggest dope dealers, kingpins. But they were raping the women in Jamaica at one point where it became natural. In Africa, they were raping the women like it became natural, that they didn't have rights or anything. So a lot of times when you got people that's coming over from those places, that's why when you think about something, and I don't mean to say this and I don't mean to be derogatory about this, but there are more foreign doctors than they are American doctors. There are more foreign doctors than they are raised. You know why? Because they take the opportunity when they get over here, like this is the best thing they got. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't do that. We don't take advantage of that. We got freedoms, but we give it away by some of the stupid stuff we do and some of the stuff that we don't care about. You know what I mean? Every time I see a baby being shot on our streets, every time I see a baby or gang banging and fight, you got people who die for these rights. And what happens? We squander them on the streets by doing all this unnecessary stupidity when there's other people, other races, and other foreign countries which they had the opportunity we had that we throw away. So there are a lot of cultural differences when it comes to appreciation of what God has given us over here. Because, I watched John Clef, the Fugees. He said, you know, I'm so grateful for what I got. I was living in a place where they had no running water. They had no sanitation system, meaning they had no toilet. They had nothing. They had to walk around. They had no electricity. Everything was solar. And then at a certain point, everything shut down because they didn't have it. They grew up in the poorest of the poorest. So those people appreciate. That's why they work so hard when you think about some of the people. So one thing I can say, because I got some of the friends that of other races, and and one thing I will say that a lot of them work harder because of where they come from, opposed to us. Now, some of us come from ghettos. Some of them come. I lived in the project, 5323 building, 809. I went to Mary C. Terrell, so I know what going a tough time. My father, again, I met my father at 25. My father died a few years after that. My father wasn't in my life. My mom raised 3 kids. She did the best she could. We didn't always have, but we never went hungry and we never looked like bums. But so it wasn't always the thing. So that's why when I get opportunities like I do have now on the radio, I take it. So a lot of times when you marry somebody of another race that come from another adverse situation or place in life, they're a little bit more aggressive and more excited about the opportunity. So sometimes that's one good thing about being in a relationship with somebody of the opposite race. Another obstacle that will always be is the social conscious outlook of the couple. That is something that I think is one of the biggest bullets in interracial dating and interracial relationship is the social consciousness of how you look together. Dominique spoke about how she was called into a meeting because she was holding the hand of her boyfriend, which is a coworker, in public, and they didn't think it was appropriate, especially on work atmosphere, because it don't look right, because you don't want to upset the establishment perception of what should be normalized or what should be normal. So again, but that is one thing that that's a hidden stigmata in interracial relationships that a lot of people don't even talk about. Because you know why? When I go, like, it's like, okay, I'm a black man going to meet my girlfriend's another race family. So I don't want to dress like I would. I might dress with some old jeans on and a baseball cap on and a nice t-shirt, might have something on it. But when I'm going to visit them, let me put on some slacks and let me put on some nice shoes and maybe a suit coat or a suit jacket with a nice shirt that look like I'm presentable, or because I'm worried about the social stigmata or the social consciousness of look. Or you might get a white man that's going to a black barbecue, and you know what? I don't want to dress like, I don't want to put a 3-piece suit on, or I like wearing suits or dress. Let me put some jeans on. And matter of fact, let me go buy some Michael Jordans on, and let me go get a Flavor Flav clock and put it on. I'm just joking, but serious. In a relationship, we always think about that. We always think about what is people looking at. How do we look as a couple? You know what I mean? Or, if I'm a black man and I'm hooked up with my white girlfriend or my Hispanic girlfriend, my Chinese girlfriend, and a group of sisters walk past, then you know what? I'm trying to, ignore them, or I'm trying to act a certain way because I'm worried about the stigmata of me being a sellout or me being a certain way. So there is a social conscience. Or when you see a very beautiful girl of another race on the arm of a brother, you know what I mean? What do you think the other races or what the people are thinking? You worry about that. They looking at us hard, or something. Or you got to make sure that you overdo it in public because so many people are watching. Those are social conscious on how you look at yourself. Trust me, it happens. Another obstacle, and this is something that it could be big. It could be big, but it's something that has to be dealt with, especially with interracial relationships, is the religious beliefs, the religious aspects. Because see, what happened if the woman you with is a Catholic and you are a Buddhist or you are a Muslim or the person is a Christian, what happens then? Especially if you have kids, you might be Baptist, or non-denominational, and you like to eat pork. You like to eat pork chop. This person Muslim, and my kid ain't gonna eat no swine. Ain't gonna eat no pork. You think about that. And then, if there's an argument, what religious base are you going to base, because, you want to be able to find a spiritual base to always deal with your issues. So what spiritual basis are you going to deal with? Are you going to deal with the Bible? Are you going to deal with the Quran? Are you going to deal with the Torah? So those are a lot of things you have to look at that can be a big bullet or can be. That's why before you get physical, you want to get mental with somebody. You want to make sure that you're in a relationship with somebody that you've discussed all these things. Now, here is the greatest solution. I'm gonna give you the greatest solution on having a successful interracial relationship. I'm gonna give you the solution that will work 100 out of 100 times, and here it is. The solution for a successful interracial marriage or relationship is being able to effectively blend cultural traditions, and transitions, values, beliefs, systems together. The key component is compromise. Now, let me say that again. The solution for a successful interracial marriage or relationship is being able to effectively blend cultural transitions and traditions, values, and beliefs together in a system. The key component is compromise. That is the greatest secret and solution to having a relationship of an interracial type, is to be able to blend effectively, not just blend, but effectively the cultural transitions, because you're making a transition from one culture to another culture. Whenever you learn one, you're making another one. You're learning another one because see, therefore, in one you have belief system and you have an operating core of thinking. Same way in another one. So you're making a transition from one to another. And then the traditions. We cannot smite each other's traditions. We might have a tradition like, you date a lady that's a Muslim, there's Ramadan. Or you might have some people who believe in giving up something for different religions. Or some people, I knew a girl that I dated was a 7-day Adventist. They did nothing on the Sabbath day. They wouldn't watch no TV, they wouldn't do nothing. And nothing was done. So you have everybody's religious views and perspectives, and it has to be blended. I can give you so much of you, but you got to give me so much of me. And then that's where you find a middle ground. You got to also be able to blend somebody's values, because some people have certain values that was taught to them from a cultural sense, from years and years of tradition. So you got to be able to blend somebody's values. You got some people don't believe in certain things, like in King Solomon day, they had to beautify themselves for a whole year before they seen the king. And then you have their tradition to always want to be beautiful for their husband. They wake up beautiful before their husband get up in the morning. They get up and they beautify themselves, so they always have a appearance of beauty when they see their husband. Just like some men that they love to be stylish, they love to be dressed, or they love to be well groomed for their women. They love to be always immaculate. There are some people that love to be I love, like, what my tradition, and I try to pass on to my kids, is that I like to get my hair cut every week. I like to be professional looking. I like to, look a certain way. I like to, feel like, okay, I'm always doing that. So, then we also got to, look at people's belief system. See, we can't shun people's belief system. We can't jump on them because they don't believe what I don't believe. Now, it can be something that can be to tear the relationship down, but it has to be discussed before it even gets to that point. Because I got to know what you believe. Because me personally, I don't care what color you are if you make me happy, but I want you to believe in God. I want you to have a relationship with God, because love does not have a color, but call does. Now, and I don't mean a color as call. There are people that's authorized to be in your life by God, and there are some people, no matter what color, creed, whatever, that is not authorized to be. They're qualified, but they're not authorized to be in your life. So a lot of times, I'm not looking at nobody's color. I'm not looking at nobody's creed. I'm not looking back. I'm looking at their authorization in the call of God that God has put on my life. And that's how you have to judge people, according to their call. You have to pick somebody according to how they are with you and your call of God. So you have to be able to do that. So the key component in all of that, key component in blending the cultural transitions and traditions, the key component in respecting somebody's values, the key component in respecting somebody's believing system, and bringing it all together, the key component is compromising. Not compromising who you are, but compromising in the situation. A lot of times we don't get what we want all the time, but it's better than what we had. I tell everybody, so a lot of times you compromise. And there are some good things that happens from interracial relationships, like genetics. You know what I mean? Genetics. You got to think about that. You still can have, you can have, like, say for instance, one of the people in the marriage, or in the one of the races in the brilliant. They come from a list of doctors. You know what I mean? So you have that. You might have the other parent of another race that might be athletic. So now you got a brilliantly smart, athletic person. So there are so many amazing things about genetics. I mean, again, even when you take President Obama was mixed. You know what I mean? He looked like a black man, but he was a half white. So you have two cultural differences, but you have two cultural races of heritage that you can learn from, that you can pick up things from. You can understand about yourself, because because a lot of times, like my pastor used to always say about generational, what's passed down generational. You can learn your heritage through your generation on what you've been through, but you can learn why you like certain things, why you do certain things. I mean, I know it's to be true because I pass down things to my kids. One thing that I have that is strong is my memory. My baby boy has that same memory. My baby boy, before he could read, and they thought he could read in the doctor's office, he was 3 years old. He knew every single Thomas train there was. He can tell you the caboose without even having a train. He memorized over 200 trains by heart from memory. Again, when you look at that, I mean, I don't know where he get this swimming like a fish from, but we pass things on. So genetics. Another good thing about interracial relationships and marriages that produce kids is parenting styles. Because see, a lot of times we can mess up a child by raising them up the same way we were raised. A lot of things that we do, we recycle our events, we recycle our lives. A lot of times When our moms didn't save money good, we grew up and don't save money good. But you know what? And a lot of times we're passing them same old reruns of life to our kids. So when you take somebody of another race who comes from another style of parenting, from another history of discipline, of another history of structure, and you add that with you, they'll get a perfect balance. So you know what? So where you might be short in something, then this person might be better in. So you might say, you know what, we don't, this person might say, in our culture, we start a bank account for our kids so that they will not only have money sparingly, but they'll learn about business, they'll learn about finances, but they also have money for college. Whereas in our race, we'll wait till we get them to their senior year and we'll apply for student loans or grants or scholarships and all that and study preparing for them there. So that can be such a benefit, especially with races that's business minded. That's hardcore business minded. Now, not saying that, because I know some great professional business minded black folks, white folks, Italian folks, Chinese folks. I know a array of different races that's amazing business folks. What I'm saying is there are definitely benefits. Now, another thing that will definitely be an amazing benefit to interracial relationships, because of all the negativity, because of the cultural differences, because of the stigmatas from society, because of the racism, because of the kids that has multiple heritage and all these things. It makes you guys, if you want it to work, because you love each other and be happy, it makes you guys work harder. And you know who you are and what you can do in your adverse situations. I said this on a Facebook post a while back. I said the greatest lessons you learn about people are when you're learning the greatest lessons. Let me say that again. The greatest lessons you learn about people are when you're learning the greatest lessons. See, you see what people are made of when things are going bad. A lot of times you got a lot of people will say what they'll do and how loyal they is, and they'll give everything they got. But when that adversity hit and stuff had, people run. I'm still learning this now. How many people say they care or love or have your back? And this has nothing to do with race. But I know a lot of people, when I needed them the most, they were nowhere there. And a lot of times we don't understand, when people are in a worse situation, that's your greatest opportunity to show your worth, show who you is. Because to me, I don't care what race you are. If you're going to help me and you're going to be there in a time of need, I tell you what, I love you for life. That's always been my pet peeve. That's always been what I live by when it comes to people. I look at a lot of people when they say, well, man, Minister Wright, I love what you do on the radio. I love your show. I love how it inspires people. But you'd be surprised how many people have donated or even gave $1 to my GoFundMe or ever donated to something positive in the community. It is amazing how many people won't. It is amazing when you look at that. But at the same time, that's when you show who you worth. That show you your worth. And that's the reason why I think. Now, let me get into what I think. Let me get into Corey's perspective. What I think why a lot of races or a lot of people date now is nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. I think everybody has a right to date whoever they want to date. I think a lot of reasons why people date outside of their race, because they get tired of getting treated like crap by their own race sometimes. And a lot of times, they figure like this, because I know a friend of mine who did time in jail. He did 10 years in jail. He right now, he was on, and I don't know if you guys remember this show, but he was on Jenny Jones' show arguing with about 3 sisters on there about how he married a white girl. He married a white girl, and he said but they said, well, you got a successful hardware store, you got all this property, you got successful businesses, and what happened? You go get a white woman. And see, he cut them short because he told them that when I did 10 years out of jail and I had changed my life, nobody wanted to give me an opportunity, want to give me a job. And the sisters knew when I told them that I had just got out of jail and I didn't have nothing to offer, the first thing they thought I was a come up. He's just trying to come up. He just trying to get something. This white lady who said, you know what, you're a nice guy, you trying, I care for you, let me help you out, and help them get the business, help them get the business loan, help them get better. So now he's getting better. He's hearing the stereotypes from his own race. He's hearing the negativity. And sometimes that plays a big factor. And that's something that people don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about that because unfortunately, you think about that, a lot of times other races do treat you a little bit better, or other races can treat you a little bit better. I don't know. I have never dated outside my race, but I'm open to date outside my race. I will if I found somebody that would treat me, good, but at the same time, it is so ironic that a lot of people don't want to deal with that. You won't hear a lot of people say that. A lot of people say, well, I couldn't find happiness. A lot of people say, well, I can't find a man that treat me without trying to cheat on me, or a man that wouldn't try to hurt me, and then a lot of times, let me talk about the men. I'm gonna talk about the men. A lot of men might say, well, you know what, let me date outside my race because you know what, I can't fight the world and come home and fight a woman. You know what I mean? I can't always fight a black woman. I can't fight every day. You know what I mean? There is a lot of stigmatas that's out there, again, and seeing we don't make it no better if we're doing what people say we do. If we're acting like this, you know what I mean? You got some men that walk around want to be dogs. So then when you got women out here saying that most black men are dogs, most black men are players, you know what I mean? We're not stopping these stigmatas, these things, stereotypes. Or you get a man that say, okay, it's always the angry black woman. You got to always fight with women. But then you got women that'll fight you using your kids. Then you wonder why these stereotypes. I'm not going to say that all black women or black women are angry, but I have fought some fights trying to be a good father to my son. I have watched my kids go through the middle of things. And unfortunately, you look at these races and you look at our race, and I'm just going to talk about my race because I can just talk about my race because I'm black. You look at why a lot of our kids are dying in the street is because I failed relationships with our parenting. Because we too busy trying to hurt one another. We trying to get back at one another. We trying to fight one another. So then the kids suffer. You know what I mean? So again, they turn out to be killers and they want to shoot up everybody and they don't have no value in life. And then we're talking about, well, what we going to do about our black folks? We're going to heal our relationships with our parents so we can be parents to our black folks. But see, that's when you look at different races. You look at people that don't want to do that. That you look at sometimes you don't want to deal with that. See, interracial relationships, it's a difference in that, but sometimes it makes us look at the truth in our relationships. Black lives matter to me, and they should matter to black lives. Unfortunately, and that's why I brought up those questions that the lady asked me in Job Corps when she was the first time around a black man. She said, why do black men get mad when white men call them the N-word, and we call each other constantly the N-word? All you did was change the letter. Or, why do we get mad when police shoot us when we shooting each other? And that's a great question, that you have to think about, because a lot of times, what's going to happen? A lot of times, and I want to say this, and I want to make sure I'm politically correct. If you marry somebody outside the race, they're not going to want to live in the hood. Woo, I hit something, Earl. I was hit something on that one. That's one benefit of interracial relationship. See, you can marry your own race. They say, well, we could just live, we could just catch other places, and that other person be like, no, you know what, we need to go move out to suburbs. We need to go move in a nice gated area. I'm making so much, you making so much. Let's put it together and do something. Or let's open up a business. We got so many people, in various races, that's looking to start business. Shark Tank. Kevin Leary, he did a speech that I watched on YouTube and I thought was very powerful. He said his first and only job was at 15 years old. He said he was working at a candy shop and he was fixing candy and scooping ice cream. And the lady said, okay, Kevin, I need you to scrub these floors and mop these floors, scrub these floors, and close the toilet. He said, no, you hired me to fix candy and scoop ice cream. She said, this is my shop. and I hired you to do what I say. You want my money. I'm the owner, so I tell everybody what to do. He said, I am not getting on no floors, cleaning no dirty toilet or nothing. And you didn't hire me for that. You said you need a candy scooper and ice cream fixer. You didn't need no bath. She said, either you do it or you fired. He said, I'm not doing it. She said, you fired. He said, thank you very much. I owe you a lot, because that let me know when you run stuff, you set the pace. And he said, it's so many people are minded to take a job. They would rather fail. They would rather stay stagnated in a job than fail on their own. And he said, and it made me think about that. How many people in cultural teach their kids to go to college and get a good job instead of go to college and have your own business? So let me get back to interracial dating. Just like my call-in said, we might not want to look at race, and a lot of people are afraid to handle a subject like this on the radio or speak about it, but I'm not. I like to talk about hard stuff because, again, we might not want to say it, but there's still a racist stigmata that's out here. And and a lot of it has to do with not knowing. A lot of it has to do with cultural differences, but not able to go to the other side and learn for yourself. So a lot of those things exist, and a lot of times people don't talk about it. I mean, I've seen some amazingly beautiful women of all races. I've seen some, I don't care what race you is. Jennifer Lopez is fine. That's a bad mama jamma. Tyra Banks. I don't care what race you is. Tyra Banks is a bad mama jamma. She awesome. So it doesn't make a difference. But if you're going to be in a relationship, you got to have that talk. And you got to have your talk about everything. Because in a relationship, it should be a plan. But more important than all, you got to be able to let water run off you. You can't take everything personal. You have to say, I'm not going to deal with this. Now, tomorrow show, I'm going to be dealing with relocation. Because, especially with the violence that's going on in Chicago and the things that's happening in Chicago, a lot of people are relocating. Because I'm really considering relocating myself with maybe in another month or so. I'm praying on it. I'm thinking about it. But I don't want to stay in Chicago. I don't see anything, especially in other places where there's great opportunities, great people. When I went to Arkansas, and I say this again, it was one of the best weeks I've ever had in my life. It's like I disconnected from the matrix to see how people treat you, how opportunities, how people work together. People go out of their way to say hello, but not in Chicago. Everybody got to be tough. Everybody got to be nasty. You speak to a woman, first thing she says, you thirsty. What you trying to get? So I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. And then again, I got an amazing speaker here Friday. Reverend Seth Martin, amazing man of God. He's under Pastor Smokey Norfolk, and he's going to bring the word of God. You can call in, ask questions. But I think, and again, please, for the record, solution is, believe that happiness has no color. You have a right to date anybody. And you know what? I'm open. So there's, ladies out there who, other races that, you think I look good, which I do. That's fine. But we have to be able to have the conversation, though. We got to be able to talk to the differences. If you think things are going to work themselves out, you're going to run into a stone wall every single time, because they're not going to work out. Some things have to be discussed, and be open about it. Be open about it. I remember my boy Wayne, who's still in the Army, one of my best friends almost 20-some years ago. His mom said, Corey, this is probably many Irish people you've been around in your life. And they treated me and Wayne at 20 years old. We were like freaking frack. We were like best friends. You know, a lot of times he come with me in the hood, everything, people treated him good. I mean, he was one of the coolest guys in the world. I wasn't going to the service. He decided to go to the service and made a career out of it. He's doing great. He's over in Iraq where they doing the security for the people, and he's making googlobs of money. But we had a great time. So, you know, and again, they treated me amazing. They treated me, my boy Carlos treated me amazing. You know, a lot of times. So it doesn't make a difference because there are bad people in every race. You know, there are bad people. Unfortunately, you look at the things that's happening, these terrorist attacks, these things that's happening, you know, don't mean that all Muslims are bad. Doesn't mean that everyone is bad. You know, it's just like when you look at me. I'm an intelligent black man. I don't wear earrings. Not saying nothing wrong with earrings. I don't wear stuff like that. My pants are not down. I don't talk broken English. I'm not out here gang banging. I'm not, you know, and every man that you meet, especially black man, is not a gang banger. He's not a hooligan. He's not, you know, and there's a lot of stigmatas out here, or you women. There's a lot of professional women that don't have 50 kids, or you know, or some people say those stigmatas and those stereotypes, they have to go. I have no place in this society. And I am happy to announce that there has been a rise every single year in interracial marriages. At one point, it is 1 in every 12. And now, according to statistics, now there's 5 in every 12. You know, they're constantly rising because America is starting to see, and people are starting to see, that we all bleed the same. We all are one. God created us all. We're not going to be in heaven praising God's name, looking at color. Oh, you can't praise like that. You know, I had hang-ups. You know, I had hang-ups. You know, I have never been under a white pastor. You know, I've never been in, you know, I mean, again, you know, I've never done that. Not, you know, I grew up in a black church, grew up in a Baptist church, grew up in church, but I've never, you know, I've never been under, not saying, but then I remember going to a funeral of a friend of mine, mother of his kids, out on 120 something out there, like by the expressway. And they have a white pastor. When I tell you that man preached his butt off, I said, wow. So, you know, until I seen that, I had the stereotypes that all the best preachers were black men. Now, it wasn't that I was thinking that way. Now, another one we had, which he'll be on my show next week, Renee Perron. Amazing man of God. Amazing speaker. He had people laid out in the street and laid out on the floor with his anointing. So, you know, you learn that God uses everybody, and that God can send you anybody to make you happy, anybody to deliver you. You have to be open enough to receive them, and we have to stop looking at the outside of the book and start reading the content of the book. That's when you're going to find out what the story is really about. And see, we cannot let race, we cannot let creed, color, we cannot let cultural differences stop us from being one united people, one united front. Because it ain't no such thing as color. It's good or evil. You either on God's side, you either on the devil. There's no in between. And I'm going to tell you something. Hell is colorblind. I hope y'all heard that. Hell is colorblind. If you do all the negative things on earth and think you're going to go to heaven, you're going to go to hell. Whoa, Candace. Miss Candace, let me see what she said. I appreciate your comments. I do think, though, that's much of what you're addressing has more to do with cultural shift in black culture that should change. Interracial marriages and dating is not, well, that's as far as I can read, because I can't let me see more. That's a good point. There is a shift. There is a shift in our culture, but there should be a shift in every culture, because we got to start being happy with who we are. One of the greatest ways you can be successful in an interracial relationship is to be happy with who you are, to be steadfast in who you are, And to know what God made is amazing. And when you know what you bring to the table, we have to deal with miscarriage of love in communities. We do have to deal with miscarriage of love. I like how a miscarriage of love. That is pretty good. I love that, Candace. I love that. But we have to look at uh, that we have to be see a lot of times our discontent for interracial relationships or for other races is our discontent in ourselves. We've been through things, and don't get me wrong, we have a lot of races that have been through a lot of hardships and racism and things of that nature. But you have to make the most of your opportunity. You have to be the change. You have to be the change. So you have to embrace everybody, because the only thing that's going to be hate, it as racially motivated or any other type of hate, is love. That's the only thing gonna be. And I love everybody. And I want to be very diverse, because you know why? Everybody hurts. Everybody lose people. And everybody goes through things. And God didn't just send me here to be a messenger to one race. He sent me be here to be a messenger to the people of God. And we are all people of God. And we have to view each other like that. We have to view each other with respect and admiration. And we have to see the beauty in everybody, in every race, in every person. And whatever makes you happy, you could be an alien. I don't know if y'all watch Star Trek, but Captain Kirk had some of the most alien babes anybody ever had. He kept an alien babe. He didn't care if she was green. If she looked good, Captain Kirk was going to get her. So you could be a Martian. If you go treat me decent and you're a beautiful Martian, that's all count. So people of God, I'm really hoping that this show blessed you. Again, it has no color, it has no color barrier on being happy. Happiness has no color. If a person treats you right, let their actions speak for them. I tell people that actions have their own voice. Your actions can speak louder than anything you can ever say. Actions will speak. If that person treats you right, you keep them. Because I'm not going to date nobody because of a race. I'm going to date somebody on how they treat me and what I accomplished with them. I had to tell a friend of mine yesterday that a lot of times good men and women are in bad situations. And sometimes we use race. We label a place or area as the hood. But sometimes you can get people to see more about themselves and see more about the problem if you change their situation. A lot of times we take people's situations and what they're going through in their situations personal. We say that, okay, they live in the projects, they got to be about it. They can be a brainiac in the projects. They're just in a situation. Put them on the floor or put them on another stage in another place. You would be surprised how things have changed. And it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with creed. It has nothing to do with color. It has to do with situations. You know what I mean? Bad situations can bring out the bad in people. Better situations can bring out the best in people. Sometimes we have to change people's culture by changing their situation, and then they'll change their actions and you'll see a better them. I tell people all the time, don't judge me by what I say and do in a bad situation. Or don't come down on me because I'm in a bad situation and I do something that's offensive. I'm not doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because I'm in a bad situation. Move me to a better situation. I've learned a lot of things that when I tell people about a high-rise conversation, when they're in the gutter, they don't understand nothing I'm saying. But when I bring them up to the high-rise where I am, then they can understand so much completely. And that is so important in race. We talk about how bad the communities is. Put the same amount of money that you put in these other communities, in our Black communities, in our run-down communities, in our urban communities, in our so-called what we call ghetto communities. Put that same money in there and give them the same economical advantages that other people have, other races have in other places. Then you will see just how great those people can be. A lot of times people are situational. They're situational. They're living and surviving in a situation. It doesn't want to mean they want to be that, striving to survive. That's what they're doing. You know what I mean? And again, you look at that and we blame it on race, but we have to blame a lot of those things on situations. And I guarantee you, anybody of any color, any race, any religion, any creed, if you treat them good and bring them to a better situation, they would rise up to be better in that situation. One of my favorite movies is The Hurricane. The Hurricane is one of my favorite movies with Denzel Washington and that other guy. And when the hurricane was freed, the first Elijah, that's the guy, the kid name. The first book he read was the Hurricane book. But his family let him go live with a family in Virginia. And that's when he started to read and he started to learn. And the first book he read was the Hurricane. And he went to go see him. And it was because of him and that family that he got out. You know what I mean? And see, what happened was the boy became a lawyer. Why? Because his family loved him enough to take him out of the situation that he was in and didn't worry about these being white folks. It was a better situation. And people of God, we have to stop looking at race and start looking at better situations, better circumstances, and better outcomes. And if we get past that, we will have a better America, we have a better tomorrow, and we'll have a better future. People of God, I pray this show has blessed you again. If it touched you and if it made a difference, please go to my GoFundMe page on my page, donate. Again, tomorrow, tune in. We're going to be talking about relocation. And get up and be the change that you want everybody else to be. Be the example. God is love. He loves you. You love somebody. Never quit, never back down, and know that God made you to be the greatest you can be. You go out there and be it. Denzel Washington said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And there would not be no you. See you at work, people of God. Peace.
Don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket. You just get on board. You just get on board.